Thank you for watching Amir Shakil 5858. I am Amir Budnam. I am thankful to all news resources and my entire team. Following news have been reported by American, European, Canadian, Asian, African, Australian channels and also news agencies AFP, AP and Reuters. Now the headlines. Future of non-compete agreement in United States. Protest in London and in United States for ceasefire in Gaza. Protest in Israel for removing the Netanyahu government. New video release of hostages. Violence is spreading in Ecuador. A book on climate change. Encampment in American schools for ceasefire in Gaza. Israel killed 13 people in Gaza yesterday. Tornado outbreak in America. Meeting in Saudi Arabia for Gaza ceasefire. Spanish Prime Minister's supporters. Freedom of speech and Gaza protest in university campuses. Now the news headlines. Rather details.
Tonight, riot police move in to break up Palestinian protests. Demonstrators dragged off after ignoring warnings.
Are you in riot gear? I don't see no riot gear.
University uprisings in the U.S. inspire action on Canadian campuses.
We are holding our ground here until we achieve that best.
A troubling trend, pulling up roots to relocate.
Canada has a smaller market for jobs.
Why more Canadians are choosing to live abroad. Plus, the winner is clear.
It really only takes one sip, I think, for people to recognize the quality and craftsmanship.
A Canadian vodka claims its spot as one of the world's best.
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, Mirella Fernandez.
Good evening. As quickly as authorities tear down tents in one state, new ones spring up in another. Students at universities across the U.S. and in Canada are determined to send a message about the war in Gaza. In Bloomington, Indiana, state police move in to make arrests after demonstrators refuse to leave.
Gaza sees you!
At Northeastern University in Boston, about 100 people get detained. And in Montreal, at McGill, a pro-Palestinian group sets up tents downtown. CTV Jeremy Sharon tonight with a call for action on campuses in North America.
Congregating on campus, hundreds of Montreal students joining a pro-Palestinian protest movement, setting up an encampment at McGill University with no timeline to take it down.
We know from the States that this only furthers and emboldens the community to come out and support us. So I'm not worried about the repercussions of that. I think the more they repress us, the more that we will be here steadfast.
In the U.S., demonstrations have spread to nearly 50 college campuses across the country, students protesting the Israel-Hamas war. In Boston this morning, police in riot gear called in to clear an encampment on campus at Northeastern University. About 100 people were detained here. The university claims the protest had been infiltrated by professional organizers and raised concerns about anti-Semitic activity among protesters.
We are students. We are peaceful students. Throughout history, when have students ever been protesting and you look back and you say, oh no, they were wrong. We know we are on the right side of history.
In Indiana, state police called in to clear a university encampment here. At least 23 people were arrested. The protests on both sides of the border, calling on their schools to cut financial ties with Israel and to divest from companies enabling the war.
There'll be some marginal change, some marginal progress, if you will, but I don't think it'll be very systemic and deeply rooted.
This encampment at Columbia University is what started it all. Students here have dug in.
Spirits are high within the encampment, and we don't see any movement or any fear of students feeling like they're going to move out anytime soon.
Last week, police were called to Columbia to try and clear the protest. More than 100 people were arrested.
The pro-Palestinian protests have also sparked safety concerns among some Jewish students who say they're afraid to set foot on campus. Mirella?
CTV Jeremy Sharon, thank you for that. So protesters want the war in Gaza to end. The Palestinian militant group Hamas says it's reviewing a new Israeli proposal for a ceasefire. Also today, Hamas released new video of two Israeli hostages, 64-year-old Keith Siegel and 47-year-old Amir Miron, calling on Israel's government to reach a deal with Hamas. It wasn't clear when the videos were made. Major food banks in this country are struggling to pull in the amount of food they need to put out. Demand has been so high for so long now, some officials say the ongoing struggle may force them to close their doors. CTV's Colton Prada reports.
Food bank donations are more vital than ever, but they're not going as far as they used to.
We ourselves are having to pull back on the amount of food that we can provide in the community because we have to make sure that we are sustainable for the next couple of years.
Some of Canada's most crucial community safeguards are sounding alarm bells over what they say is an unsustainable increase in demand that's threatening their very existence.
We're worried that if we don't make changes now, we won't be around in the next 3 to 4 years.
New data from Statistics Canada shows nearly 23% of Canadians experienced food insecurity in 2022, an increase of nearly 1.8 million people from the year before.
At what point has government outsourced to charity their duty, and when do we say enough?
Visits to Toronto's Daily Bread Food Bank are forecasted to reach 500,000 people every month by the end of next year, a drastic leap from 65,000 visits a month pre-pandemic.
And at some point, it can't just be community, it can't just be philanthropic good. It needs to be something that is in policy, something that is in government laws and regulations to ensure that every Canadian can thrive in community.
Ottawa is pointing to the National School Food Fund and the Canada Child Benefit as supports that have helped lower the number of Canadians living beneath the poverty line since the Liberals first took office. But that number is ticking back up, increasing for the second year in a row and now nearing pre-pandemic levels. Morella.
Difficult times, Colton. Thank you. So the high cost of living is just one reason more Canadians are choosing to live abroad. There's a spike in the number of people making a move. CTV's Kamal Karamali tells us which countries have the biggest Canadian expat populations and what challenges they face when they move.
More and more Canadians are waving goodbye to their homeland.
For the size of our population, there's a huge amount of Canadians kind of, no matter where I go.
And moving abroad, uprooting for reasons including housing and healthcare.
I've been priced out of my own country. And on top of that, the waits for services, for example, especially medical services, is really, really pathetic.
The latest data estimates around 4 million Canadians live abroad, roughly 11% of the country's population. That number, a huge increase, a 36% jump from the number of Canadians who lived elsewhere in 1990. More than 1 million Canadians, that's over 1/3, live in the US, with 300,000 in Hong Kong and more than 70,000 in the United Kingdom.
It's much more difficult to climb up in Canada than it is in the United States.
Greg Lewis moved to California and hasn't looked back.
Do you feel forgotten?
Yeah. And I wasn't really worried about it. It didn't affect me in any way. But again, there's no two-way connection.
The report from McGill Institute for the Study of Canada says Canadians abroad have received little attention, from consular services to healthcare, taxation, and community building. The diaspora has been largely left to its own devices.
Canadian post offices need to upgrade their services. They need to put more staff in there.
But others argue the onus is on the individual.
You would almost expect that expatriates should have some responsibility. They should be able to check the Ontario website for healthcare coverage, for example.
Some experts now predicting the housing and health crises will continue to push Canadians to other countries if change doesn't happen soon. Marilla.
Okay, Kamal. Cisco is urging governments around the world to upgrade computer software because of a new cyber threat. The tech giant says the cyber campaign, dubbed Arcane Door, targets devices governments use, and the hack may be linked to foreign states. Cisco is one of the largest providers of network equipment to the Canadian government. Residents across the American Midwest sifting through the rubble of their shattered homes after dozens of tornadoes tore a path of destruction across 5 states. Nebraska has been hit hard, hundreds of homes damaged. This is a subdivision near Omaha. Luckily, no one has been killed, but several people are injured. More twisters are expected on Sunday from Texas all the way to the Great Lakes. It's not weather, but road rage being blamed for a 6-car pileup north of Toronto. A 21-year-old man was killed, and police say it began with 2 vehicles heading south on a major highway.
From the initial collision, one of the vehicles crossed the center median, dividing the highway into the northbound lanes, which results in a collision with a pickup truck traveling northbound.
Yango.
The driver of the pickup was injured. At this time, no charges have been laid. Police have released a list of their most wanted, 25 people accused of everything from murder to drug trafficking. Suspects police haven't been able to find and are hoping cash rewards will encourage Canadians to be on the lookout for them. As CTV's Alison Bamford tells us, there is $1 million on the table.
A long and dangerous list filled mostly with suspects wanted for murder, others on drugs and gun charges.
To all the suspects featured in the top 25 list, today, your world gets smaller.
At the top of this year's Bolo list is Michael Bebby, wanted for his alleged role in the murder of a Toronto man 9 months ago. There's a $100,000 cash reward for any tip that leads to his arrest.
We do believe there are people out there who have the information we need to bring him into custody.
Half of this year's top 25 are made up of suspects from last year's list.
The vast majority of these cases have progressed in terms of investigative leads.
Since its inception in 2018, the Bolo program has handed out about 35% of its cash rewards. New this year, an online contest that gives people a chance to win travel vouchers and instant prizes if they correctly identify suspects in a virtual lineup.
Raising awareness is a good thing, but where is the line between that and doing all the right things to get dangerous people off the street and turning it into a game show?
The added incentive can't hurt, says former Ontario Provincial Police Commissioner Chris Lewis, but in his experience, cash rewards aren't always necessary to capture suspects.
The vast majority either stumble across the police because of another crime, somebody just tips the police off and don't care about a monetary reward, and then others are killed or found to be otherwise in another country.
For the Regina Police Service, that's exhausted all other avenues. There's hope the national online attention leads to the arrest of Daniel Juma Atem.
They're dangerous offenders, and to bring them to justice is very important.
The list of suspects comes from 18 police services across 7 provinces and the United States, all who were selected by a screening committee. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Regina.
Amazon will pay big bucks to put NHL hockey on its streaming service in the fall. That means Canadian sports fans will have to stick handle their way to Prime Video. Rogers and the NHL have reached an exclusive agreement with Amazon's Prime Video to carry Monday regular season games for the next 2 seasons. It is the league's first broadcast deal with a digital-only streaming service in Canada. Tonight, of course, you could still tune in to watch the Stanley Cup playoffs on TV, but a new survey reveals that hockey has competition. Canadians are more interested these days in some other sports. Here's CTV's Paul Hollingsworth with that.
The Stanley Cup playoffs have delivered a fever pitch of fan excitement.
Toronto Maple Leafs. Here's Tavares. He scores! Going all the way.
Even visitors to Canada are feeling it. How long have you been in Canada?
Only a week.
How much hockey have you watched?
In the last week, every night.
A recent survey did a deep dive into hockey passion, asking Canadians the sport they like most.
The results show that hockey rules.
22% say hockey is their favorite sport. 10% prefer soccer. Basketball, 8%. 12% don't watch sports at all. Hockey fan?
Not particularly.
This former fan lost interest long ago.
We just don't watch it anymore, unfortunately.
For those who still love hockey, it's not just the NHL.
The women's hockey, which has taken off just incredibly, which is a long time coming.
The study also showed people who live in parts of the country that do not have NHL teams actually care about hockey more than some other areas of Canada. In Atlantic Canada, the number of fans who love hockey the most is 30%, 28% in the prairies. This former NHL scout from Nova Scotia is not surprised.
I think here the fans are certainly very passionate, and I think they're knowledgeable.
Hockey may be the most popular sport in Canada by a wide margin, but not with younger fans.
Those 18 to 24, their preferred sport to watch is soccer.
Which means as those fans grow older, soccer could one day take over top spot from hockey. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
And a note before we go to break, the funeral for Bob Cole, the voice of Hockey Canada for decades, has been set for May 3rd in his hometown of St. John's, Newfoundland. Coming up, textbooks and tortured poets.
She's kind of like the most famous person right now.
The lessons to be learned from superstar singer Taylor Swift. Plus, Canadian craftsmanship wins on the world stage. Disgraced movie producer Harvey Weinstein has been hospitalized in New York State. He's undergoing some tests. The 72-year-old is scheduled to appear before a judge next week after New York's highest court overturned his 2020 rape conviction. Weinstein's lawyer says he is somewhat of a train wreck health-wise. Britney Spears and her father finally settled a dispute over legal fees. The amount of that settlement has not been made public. The agreement comes more than 2 years after the conservatorship ended. It had given the pop icon's father full control of everything in her life, including finances and medical decisions. Apparently, Taylor Swift's legal battles are diverse enough to be the basis of a university law course. The professor teaching it has confessed to being a Swiftie and says students have a lot to learn from the superstar's cases. CTV's Jack Richardson reports.
Welcome to the Eras Tour!
Taylor Swift is coming to Queens.
She's kind of like the most famous person right now.
There is more to Taylor Swift than just music and celebrity. The global superstar has made history in contract law too.
The class will be looking at deals between a streaming service and a musician, and deals between a record company and a musician.
Swift infamously re-released several albums after the rights to her older music were sold in 2019, a deal she did not approve of. One of those re-released albums, 1989, Taylor's version, broke records for being the most streamed artist in a single day.
I am incredibly excited to be teaching the course. I can't wait for September.
While Taylor Swift is one of the most popular artists and most popular people in the world, students at Queen's have some mixed opinions on the university choosing to offer the course.
I'm not very much into Taylor Swift, but I don't know, I think she's pretty popular.
I think we get so obsessed with celebrities, and we need to just remember that they're humans.
I think they should probably expand it to not just one person's career. So that's just how much can you do on one person?
The university says it appears demand will be high, maybe not as intense as a Swift concert, but
I anticipate that the course will be full because it's capped at 30 students. But as I said, I'm considering developing an online version too.
Swifties at Queen's will hope to be first in line.
I'm not a huge Swiftie, but by default, because my housemate is, I am. But yeah, it's something I'd be interested in for sure.
Jack Richardson, CTV News, Kingston.
Straight ahead, in sickness and in health. An act of love at a time of heartbreak. An act of kindness allowed a BC bride to marry the love of her life. It gave the couple a glimmer of hope during some pretty dark days. Here's CTV's Adam Sawatsky.
Mary Davidson will never forget meeting Sean Adelberg for the first time.
He just had these gorgeous blue eyes, and he had a cute butt.
And Sean will never forget how deeply they connected during a dark time.
This bright light, this Mary, and she helped me to believe in myself again.
The couple inspired each other to get sober and start living a healthy lifestyle, which included making martial arts videos for kids during the pandemic.
And these.
Mary started wearing these mouse ears behind the camera to make Sean feel more at ease in front of it.
And sure enough, when you see a beautiful adult woman wearing mouse ears,
it just makes everything, they both say, feel more fun.
So then I thought, I'm going to wear these all the time.
And for us, it symbolizes the playfulness of our relationship, the love and the laughter.
Hello.
It felt like they were living in a joyful dream until Mary suffered a series of sudden seizures.
That was the beginning of this nightmare, so to speak.
Mary was diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer. Despite enduring surgery, chemo, and radiation, the prognosis was bleak.
I just thought, that's it. Life's over.
And I just wanted to show Mary that I wasn't going anywhere, that no matter what happened, I will be here till the end.
So, after Mary was placed in hospice care, Sean proposed.
Smile from side to side.
Followed by the couple being overwhelmed with gratitude that hospice staff had teamed up with local businesses to donate everything they needed to stage a wedding ceremony.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine.
It was amazing. My heart was totally full.
And it's taught the couple that no matter how dark the days, to consciously create moments of light.
Find hope and joy in the little things. Don't worry about tomorrow. Just grab it by the mouse tail. Grab it by the mouse tail and just soak it up.
Just relish every moment of living in mousy matrimony.
I love you. I love you.
Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Campbell River.
After the break, a vodka victory. A maritime distillery wins an international award. You can raise a glass tonight to a Canadian distillery. Its vodka has been named one of the best in the world. Wooden Waltz is based in St. John's, Newfoundland. It's a small operation with a big future. CTV's Garrett Berry reports.
A long soak in these tanks sets the grains apart.
We do it at a lower temperature, just to have a process that is slow, controlled, and pulls those flavors out really well.
Give it about a week with a bit of cleaning up, and you've got an award-winning vodka, named one of the world's best at this year's World Vodka Awards.
It's a product that you can just throw on some ice, and really it's nice to drink. It doesn't have any of those harsh flavors at all.
Judges said it has a funky and distinct aroma, a compelling, unique quality. It's classified as a varietal vodka, meaning it's good in a mixed drink or on its own.
It really only takes one sip, I think, for people to recognize the quality and craftsmanship that goes into our products.
Using grains from across the Maritimes, their vodka beat out a distillery in British Columbia and competitors from Europe, America, and Australia on the way to the top.
To have it recognized on a world stage was just really unexpected for us and exciting at the same time.
The startup distillery is hoping that this award will boost their business. They've got a beautiful bar opened in late 2022. They just need a few more customers to fill it up.
It's been hard to get the word out and stuff like that, and but we're really hoping now that with these awards coming back, and the world's best vodka is a pretty special award.
The group has worked to get their products into liquor stores in Newfoundland and Labrador, and hope to expand to reach stores across the country. Garrett Berry, CTV News, St. John's.
And that's a wrap on the day. Thanks for sharing your time with us. I'm Morella Fernandez. For all of us here at CTV National News, have a good night.
Breaking news tonight, the devastating tornado outbreak across the middle of the country. On the new forecast, the worst may be yet to come. Brand new twisters on the ground late today in Oklahoma, and terrifying moments when tornadoes ripped across highways in Nebraska, sweeping through cities. New videos from above. Entire neighborhoods wiped away. Dozens of workers trapped for hours inside this building. Homes torn from their foundations.
I don't know where we go from here.
Plus, we're tracking more severe weather and tornadoes. 40 million in the crosshairs. The new video just released. Another American hostage held by Hamas. His family's reaction tonight. Campus protest crackdown. Protesters detained today at colleges from Arizona to Indiana to Boston. Will other colleges follow? A third American tourist arrested in the Caribbean, also for accidentally carrying bullets in his luggage. We talked to two who are facing 12 years in prison.
My heart just, it sunk. I had no words.
And the cicada invasion has begun. Trillions emerging in a phenomenon that hasn't happened since Thomas Jefferson was president. The noise so loud, residents are calling 911.
This is NBC Nightly News with Jose Diaz-Balart.
Good evening. A weekend of already devastating weather may be about to get even worse. Residents in the Midwest bracing for a brutal second round after a massive tornado outbreak on Friday. Take a look at this video. A tornado tearing across a highway in Lincoln, Nebraska. And just as terrifying as seeing it, hearing it. Tornadoes tore through parts of Iowa and Nebraska, leaving massive damage in their wake. This is the view from above. Much of the neighborhood in Omaha totally leveled. And from the ground, you can see just how powerful they were. Only foundations stand where entire houses were just hours ago. All in all, as many as 80 possible tornadoes touched down on Friday. And the next wave has already begun. This is a twister on the ground in Oklahoma late today. As forecasters fear there may be even more tonight. We are covering it all tonight, and we begin with Jesse Kirsch in hard-hit Iowa.
Violent twisters shooting debris into the sky.
Violent tornado, guys! Violent!
In all, dozens of tornado reports across multiple states since Friday. And tonight, one area after another has been reduced to rubble.
I don't know where we go from here.
In Iowa, the city of Minden was gutted.
The house is gone, foundation's the only thing left.
From the air, you can see block after block of devastation.
Here in Minden, officials say this ravaged home is in the middle of a street. It's supposed to be yards away on this foundation, and you can see it is hardly the only building badly damaged.
About 180 homes were impacted. About 40% are probably destroyed.
Eric Johnson lost part of his business.
All the rest of this stuff can be rebuilt. I mean, you can't get a life back.
The city's mayor says it's been decades since they saw damage like this.
1976.
What, yes. What scale did you know?
That was the last time.
Neighboring Nebraska also hit hard.
Oh, somebody got hit!
This twister tearing across an interstate Friday, with drivers still on the road. This semi flipped on its side. About 70 people were inside this building when officials say a tornado hit. The structure collapsed, but everyone was evacuated. And in Elkhorn, Nebraska, in this neighborhood, homes wiped off the map. This bedroom now open air, with a mattress and dresser still there. Only one wall remains in this room, but items still sit on the shelves inside. Volunteers already stepping in to rebuild.
We will come together. Yeah, this is what we do here.
The devastation stretching all the way south to Texas.
When I drove up, my stomach went down. And now I know how other people feel. And I feel bad for them too.
And back here in Minden, Iowa, clearly still a good amount of cleanup to be done. But this is one of the already hard-hit areas that is back in the threat zone for more potential severe weather tonight. Jose?
Jesse Kirsch, thank you. And the dangerous weather threat isn't over. Let's get right to meteorologist Angie Lastman for the latest. Angie.
Jose, that threat far from over, as you mentioned, and continuing across a large area of the country. 39 million people still included in this threat well into this evening. The hail, the strong tornadoes, as well as those damaging winds on the table. The strongest of the tornadoes from Kansas City to Wichita Falls into Dallas. This goes after dark into the overnight period. We know how dangerous those nocturnal tornadoes are, so we're quite concerned here as we get into the overnight period. Into tomorrow morning, more of the same. We've got another line of strong thunderstorms that will build right along that front. The heavy rain draped across parts of the Midwest. And by the way, flash flooding concern as well. Hourly rainfall rates anywhere from 2 to 4 inches, with the highest amounts centered across parts of Oklahoma and Texas. We could see upwards of isolated amounts, 5 inches or higher across this region. Jose?
Angie Lastman, thank you. Two breaking news now out of the Middle East, and another video just released of 2 hostages held by Hamas, including one American. Tonight, his family now sending their own message. Megan Fitzgerald reports.
Tonight, Hamas releasing another video showing 2 hostages, 47-year-old Amir and American-Israeli 64-year-old Keith Siegel. This undated video is the first time the two have been seen during their 204 days in captivity. Keith, who works for a pharmaceutical company, and Aviva, a kindergarten teacher, have lived in Kibbutz Kfar Aza for 40 years. They were both taken by Hamas on October 7th, but Aviva was released during the last deal, 51 days into the war. Aviva, with their 2 daughters, releasing this video tonight. Seeing my father today only emphasizes to all of us how much we must reach a deal as soon as possible, she says. Aviva saying, Keith, I love you. We will fight until you return. This latest hostage video coming just days after Hamas published this footage of American-Israeli 23-year-old Hirsch Poland Goldberg.
Shalom.
NBC's Raf Sanchez speaking to his parents on Thursday.
Initially, we were just crying. This was a tremendous validation. And on the other hand, we see him. He's in captivity.
Many more families tonight desperate for a sign of life, and pressure on Netanyahu mounting.
Megan, where do hostage talks stand right now?
Jose, so far there's been little movement on a deal, but Hamas saying today it was reviewing a new Israeli proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza. Jose?
Megan Fitzgerald, thank you. Back in this country, new clashes today between police and pro-Palestinian protesters on college campuses. Hundreds detained across 3 different universities. George Solis has the latest.
Tonight, new crackdowns on pro-Palestinian demonstrators on college campuses across the country. 69 arrested over an unauthorized encampment at Arizona State University early this morning, according to a university spokesperson. At the University of Indiana in Bloomington this afternoon, police forcibly detaining demonstrators and arresting 23 after dismantling tents set up on campus and in Boston. Police detained more than 100 demonstrators at Northeastern University after an unauthorized encampment was infiltrated by professional organizers, according to university officials. Meanwhile, at New York's Columbia University, a surreal juxtaposition, some preparing for graduation set for mid-May, while others refuse to leave a tent city firmly established on campus. Earlier this week, the university barred a student leader of the protest from campus after a video surfaced of the individual calling for the death of Zionists. The student has since apologized for the remarks. A few miles downtown at NYU, a new encampment set up just days after NYPD cleared one from campus. Protest leaders unsure of what repercussions they may face.
Are you prepared to not graduate because of what's been unfolding here?
Honestly, yes. Like, to me, Palestine is that important to me that I'm willing to go that far.
Hedda, an NYU senior, is among the demonstrators that have been arrested. She says she'll continue with the protest.
My parents are very proud of me, and that's all I need, and their trust.
George Solis joins me now from Columbia University. George, is there any talk of bringing the police back on campus there?
Jose, late last night, university officials making their stance clear, saying they have no plans to bring back the police, saying it would not only be counterproductive, but it would also draw far too much attention. Jose?
George Solis.
On this Saturday night, on-campus protests escalate.
It would also draw far too much attention. Jose?
George Solis in New York, thank you. On the Caribbean island of Turks and Caicos, another vacation in paradise has turned into a nightmare. A 3rd American is now detained, arrested for allegedly carrying bullets into the country. Each could now spend more than a decade in prison. Priya Shrivastava reports.
Tonight, a 3rd American tourist has been arrested in 3 months in Turks and Caicos after allegedly bringing ammunition onto the islands, a crime that carries a minimum 12-year sentence.
It was an accident. He does have a concealed carry license. The particular bag he took on the trip had all of his emergency equipment. He's a paramedic.
Tyler Scott Wenrick's wife says authorities found 2 bullets in his suitcase at a security checkpoint while he was on vacation there. He now sits in jail trying to raise bail money.
If we can't get this changed, and it ruins our lives, it ruins my son's life, because he'll grow up with our dad.
Brian Hagrick and Ryan Watson were arrested within months of each other after they both say they accidentally left ammo in their luggage from previous hunting trips. After posting bail, they're now sharing an Airbnb as they wait for their court dates.
The penalty for this crime has a minimum 12-year sentence. Is that something that scares you guys?
Oh my God, yeah. When I first heard that, my heart just, it sunk. I had no words. It's impossible to comprehend.
According to the Turks and Caicos government, 8 American tourists have been arrested since firearm and ammunition laws were tightened in 2022. The State Department warning American travelers.
In a foreign country, U.S. citizens are subject to the country's laws.
65% of Turks and Caicos' economy is based on tourism, the majority of visitors from the U.S. For Wenrick, Hagrick, and Watson, what should have been a dream vacation, now a living nightmare.
Every matter and aspect of our life has just been completely flipped upside down.
Priya Shrivastava, NBC News.
When we come back, cicada-geddon. The historic cicada invasion already starting in the south. So bad, people are calling 911. Where the bugs are heading next. Also, we'll wait to see a doctor just hit an all-time high. Why getting an appointment takes so long and what you can do about it. You may have heard about the historic invasion of cicadas set for parts of this country coming this spring. The last time we saw an emergence like this, Aaron Burr was a year away from dueling with Alexander Hamilton. Tonight, Kathy Park reports from Georgia, where the invasion is already underway.
It's set to be the biggest invasion in hundreds of years. Not millions, not billions, but likely trillions of these pesky, incredibly loud cicadas. And right here in Georgia, the invasion has begun.
It is shocking to see this many.
And they're already coming out in South Carolina, where they're taking over Sarah Weinberg's backyard.
Did you think he was going to be this bad?
No, I really wasn't prepared because I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
This is my first invasion. Okay. They moved in, and they have stayed.
Stayed mostly under her gazebo, clinging onto every corner and crevice.
They think this is a safe spot.
It's already getting so loud in Newberry County, people are calling the sheriff to complain.
We had a leap year. We had eclipse. Now we've got cicadas everywhere.
Why so many this year? One set of cicadas comes out every 17 years, another every 13 years. This year, there's an emergence of both broods. That hasn't happened since 1803. They're coming out from Alabama to Missouri, and where they may overlap the most, Illinois.
They're talking, epic numbers, biblical kind of numbers of them in that area.
So something historic potentially is brewing in the Midwest.
It definitely is historic for sure.
Augusta, Georgia agriculture agent Campbell Vaughn says cicadas are harmless, but very loud.
The males are making the noise, and it's a little bitty buzz. I wonder if they can hear that.
So we have the sound level meter here. So let's pause and just see how loud they really are.
About 60 decibels right here.
But at their peak, that could skyrocket to 100 decibels, about the same as a lawnmower.
Enjoy the noise. It's really a neat thing, so don't get too creeped out by them.
Kathy Park, NBC News.
Not a pleasant feeling.
Augusta, Georgia.
Still ahead, why does it take so long to get a doctor's appointment these days? The extreme things some patients are doing to get seen sooner. And the surprise of a lifetime that had this medical school grad jumping for joy.
I'm partnering up with Adobe to show you guys some of the new features they just released in Adobe Express. In my videos, I love to use
And now the big delays to see a doctor. These days it takes longer than ever to get an appointment, sometimes a month or more. Dana Griffin explains why it's happening and how you can book your next visit.
Is that your favorite?
When 4-year-old Charlie Reese got sick with a rare and potentially fatal autoinflammatory condition years ago, her mom Megan said the wait to see a specialist near their home in Colorado was 6 to 9 months.
That must have been agonizing as a mom who just wants her daughter to survive.
Yes, it was terrifying. It's a treatable condition if you can get a diagnosis, but you can't get in to see a specialist to get that diagnosis.
But Megan wasn't taking no for an answer and finally got an appointment some 2,000 miles away in Boston.
I was desperate. I wasn't going to lose my daughter.
She's not alone. Delays for most doctor appointments are at an all-time high and only getting worse. The latest data shows in the nation's 15 biggest cities, it takes about 26 days for a new patient to see a physician, same to see a heart doctor, and for an OBGYN appointment, a month or more. Dr. Ilana Yurkowitz at Stanford Medical Center calls it a national crisis.
Why are patients waiting so long to get an appointment with their doctor? So this is a trend that we're seeing in every clinic, primary care, specialty clinics across the country. Doctors' time is being sucked up by administrative tasks. Doctors' time is being spent on electronic medical records, paperwork, dealing with insurance companies.
That burnout, part of a perfect storm, why so many doctors are leaving. By 2036, it's estimated the U.S. will be short by 86,000 physicians, while an aging population means there will be more patients to treat. So what do you do if you need medical care but can't wait? Experts say try another medical professional in your doctor's group, like a nurse practitioner. Ask to be put on a wait list in case of cancellations, or go to an urgent care clinic.
Is this what you signed up for? This is not what I signed up for. I think I didn't fully know the extent of it before I went into medicine, and it is a reality that I have adapted to because I love the work.
I'll get a pair of house sets.
A struggle for patients as doctors try desperately to meet the demand. Dana Griffin, NBC News.
When we come back, there's good news tonight. The life-saving gift that brought these two strangers together. There's good news tonight. So often the good news doesn't get as much attention as the bad. So every Saturday we highlight the many people who spread joy and love. These are just some of those stories this week. This is what joy looks like. That's medical student Norman Harris II, now one step closer to making his dreams come true. That letter he opened? A notice that he'd matched with his first pick, Texas Children's Hospital, where he plans to start his residency to become a pediatrician and help care for underserved kids. And there was love in Louisville for Alyssa Grimes, cheered on by staff at U of L Jewish Hospital after donating her kidney to a stranger who had posted signs in her neighborhood asking for help. That stranger is Kayla Dottie, the two now sharing an unbreakable bond. There was a sense of wonder in South Carolina.
Oh my gosh, there it is.
See that woman? It's Alicia Delgadillo from Oklahoma, there with her uncle, breaking down in tears, seeing the ocean for the very first time. And near Dallas, The Maybach High School baseball team scored a grand slam for what they did off the field. Seniors from the squad signed baseballs with messages of thanks.
Oh, you're gonna cry. Oh, I'll be there. Oh.
Giving them to the teachers and staff who changed their lives. Senior J.J. Flores gave his to auto shop teacher Robert Griffin. It read, "Thank you for always being there for me when I needed someone to talk anytime through the day."
It was kind of emotional. I've never had anything quite like that. I loved it. You know, small things can have the biggest impact on people. And I know he's always there to listen and talk to me through whatever I need.
For staff here,
Oh, this is so sweet. Thank you.
it was a home run from the heart.
Oh, I love it.
And if I use the game on Tuesday. No, the power of small gestures. A small handwritten on baseball didn't only make my day, made my week, made my month.
And the Maybank Panthers just finished their season and earned a spot in the Texas High School State Playoffs. Good luck to them. That's NBC Nightly News for this Saturday. Holly Jackson will be here with you tomorrow. I'm Jose Diaz-Balart reporting from Washington, D.C. Thank you for the privilege of your time. Good night.
Anti-war campus protests spread, but in Boston, police at Northeastern move in as activists nationwide dig in.
That there's still a genocide being committed against Gaza by the Israeli state.
In the Middle East, new protests in Israel, with a showdown in Gaza looming.
I'm Deborah Penner in Jerusalem, where a new Hamas propaganda video showing 2 hostages has given fresh impetus to families demanding a deal.
Plus, Weekend Journal. These Texas Vietnam vets tour the nation's war memorials, and reporter Doug Dunbar revisits his own painful past.
It's a picture of my dad. It's my dad's name.
And later, a presidential stage of a different kind. It happens here, where the president becomes comedian-in-chief.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Adriana Diaz.
Student outrage over Israel's war on Hamas lighting up college campuses. Here's what's new in New York, a tent city, and NYU. And Caltech's closing its campus for the rest of the semester. Protests have spread across the country, leading to a national debate over free speech and the use of force. We have coast-to-coast coverage from Michael George and Elise Preston. First, here's Michael outside Columbia University.
Really?
Mark, good evening. The protests here at Columbia today have been peaceful and quiet. Organizers told us they wouldn't make any public statements today. But demonstrators have said they won't leave until their demand is met, that the school divest from companies that do business with Israel. On day 11 of the Columbia protest, students say they have no plans to leave this encampment. Columbia's president, Manu Shafiq, under fire for her response from some on the left and right. Among them, some faculty, including Columbia professor Joseph Howley.
When the university called the NYPD in, what did that do to the situation?
I mean, it was a disastrous escalation of the situation in every possible way. It was a completely ineffectual gesture.
The Columbia demonstrations have spread across the country, and at some universities, protesters have been dealt with aggressively.
For what reason? I'm just standing on the sidewalk.
This morning, police arrested over 100 demonstrators at Northeastern University in Boston. At Ohio State, 3 were arrested as protesters clashed with police.
Give me a reason why you're doing this.
In Atlanta, dozens were arrested at Emory University. Elise Preston is at UCLA.
A fence surrounds this part of campus where dozens of pro-Palestinian tents are set up. Students here at this public university are demanding UCLA divest from companies with ties to Israel. It's been largely peaceful here, but a few miles away at USC, at least 93 people were arrested earlier this week. Citing security reasons, USC has canceled its main graduation ceremony.
At Columbia, commencement is less than 3 weeks away and in danger of being delayed or postponed.
Kind of worrying about my graduation seems a little bit of minimal in terms of, seeing what's happening around the world.
And it's worth noting that the seniors graduating this year are part of the COVID generation. Many of them also missed their high school graduation ceremonies due to the COVID lockdowns. Mark, Michael George, and Elise Preston, thanks. Today, President Biden shared this photo of his meeting with 4-year-old Abigail Edan. She was the first and youngest hostage Hamas released. Both her parents killed in the October 7th attack. The president adding that he will not rest until every hostage like Abigail, ripped from their families and held by Hamas, is back in the arms of their loved ones. CBS's Deborah Patta is in East Jerusalem tonight.
Good evening. Hamas has released another propaganda video which cannot be independently verified, showing 2 hostages, including 64-year-old Israeli-American Keith Siegel. This as family and friends demand the time is now to strike a deal.
Every week, protests grow louder and angrier. Giving demonstrators out on the streets tonight fresh impetus, a new Hamas propaganda video showing Keith Siegel and Omri Miran speaking under duress. Loved ones fear time is running out for a deal ahead of an expected invasion of Rafah, which is already under regular bombardment. Today, once again, began and ended with mourning. After at least 3 Israeli strikes hit what is mostly a tent city, sheltering over half of Gaza's 2.3 million Palestinians. There were more heartbreaking farewells to tiny bodies wrapped in shrouds. This infant has known only war her entire life. It's been a brutal week for children. Even little miracle baby Sabrine Al-Roo, who was saved from her dying mother's womb, did not make it. She died on Thursday. The UN Population Fund's Dominic Allen recently returned from Gaza and told us he barely recognized the place.
I would be concerned for the 180 women giving birth every single day in unthinkable situations.
Over 5,000 women will give birth in the next month. Many of them will be facing evacuation if the Rafah invasion goes ahead.
Having seen the destruction with my own eyes in Khan Yunis, it's unimaginable to think that these civilians will be able to move to any safe place.
Much of what remains of Gaza are the remnants of a battlefield.
Adding to the misery, starvation. The United Nations warning famine, which is totally preventable, is still imminent, Mark, and will reach northern Gaza in May.
Deborah Pata, thank you. For Democrats in a presidential election year 2024 starting to feel like 1968, a divisive war, campus protests, an unpopular incumbent, and a summer political convention in Chicago. President Biden's facing all that, and Donald Trump too. CBS's Natalie Brand is at the White House tonight. Natalie?
Good evening, Mark. There's a little more than 6 months until Election Day, and the president and former president are setting the stage for a general election debate.
We're willing to do it Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, or Friday night on national television.
Spending the week not on the campaign trail but on trial, Trump said he's ready to debate President Biden. This after the president said he's open to the face-off during a radio interview with Howard Stern.
I'm happy to say it.
The president also told Stern that he condemns the former president's actions on January 6th and Trump's campaign promise to pardon individuals convicted in connection with the U.S. Capitol attack.
It was derelict. It was almost criminal. He did nothing. He just sat there and watched what was happening. Not a single, and now he wants to he calls them patriots and victims.
Trump's federal election interference case remains on hold and could be delayed until after the November election, as the U.S. Supreme Court weighs presidential immunity and whether the former president can be prosecuted.
This is 8 days that we've all been sitting in this courthouse.
First for a former U.S. president, as Trump attended week 1 of testimony in his criminal hush money trial in New York. He's denied wrongdoing and complained the courtroom has sidelined him from the campaign trail. Trump is scheduled to return to key battlegrounds of Michigan and Wisconsin on Wednesday. Also this week, a federal judge in author E. Jean Carroll's civil defamation case against Trump upheld the verdict and $83 million judgment denying his motion for a new trial. Mark?
Natalie Brand, thank you. Another win for the United Auto Workers in the right to work South. The union reached a tentative deal with Daimler Trucks just before the Friday midnight deadline. The 4-year agreement includes pay raises of over 25% and the start of profit sharing. And now up for sale, a lightly driven 2001 Jaguar XJ sedan fit for a queen. It was Queen Elizabeth's car with a gorgeous British racing green exterior and cream leather interior. What was hers could now be yours. The latest auction high bid, around $60,000. Today, we're learning of the death of actress Marla Adams. Adams spent parts of 5 decades playing Dina Bergeron on The Young and Restless, right here on CBS. Her Emmy-winning portrayal of a character with Alzheimer's touched many viewers. She also appeared on Golden Girls and The Love Boat. Marla Adams was 85 years old. And straight ahead on the CBS Weekend News, battle scars. Why these Texas veterans are finally visiting the nation's war memorials. Burst of joy. It's the homecoming feeling every Vietnam vet imagined. It's also the name of this Pulitzer Prize-winning photo of a returning POW in 1973. But for many vets, that unpopular war turned their homecoming into another battle scar. Until now, as Doug Dunbar of CBS News Texas shows us from Washington in tonight's Weekend Journal.
It is so easy to remember the pain of being forgotten.
It kind of gets to you. It really does. When I first had somebody say, "Thanks for your service," I couldn't even talk.
Nearly 40 Vietnam War veterans with deeply personal stories of the pain of war and the hurt and shame when they came home.
It was very discouraging to think that I'd been over there fighting and these people were doing that to me when I came back. So you kept quiet for a long time, never talked about it much.
The journey to the memorials in Washington for the nearly 40 Vietnam War veterans saw 5 decades of emotion slowly beginning to surface.
Thinking about how many of these people I knew, how many of them I don't know. There's a lot of names up here. It touches me. Trying to look at all these names is just overwhelming.
You could feel a common grief, and for some, a common guilt.
They're the heroes. We're just the guys that survived, and we live with the guilt that we survived. That's the one thing that I feel like I've always felt guilty.
The first thing that really grabs your attention at the Vietnam War Memorial Wall is the size of it, the enormity. It gets bigger as you walk down. The names stay the same size. 58,000 plus names on here, and everybody knows somebody, and that includes me. It's a picture of my dad. That's my dad's name.
It's a moving experience. I believe somebody you love so much, you just can stand in these eyes and it takes you part of your heart away. So I'm really lucky.
I understand
If time has the ability to heal, the clock moved unfairly slow for those in the Vietnam War. But it's amazing what just 36 hours showing you care can do.
You know, the homecoming we got was terrible. And today when we got off that airplane and those people were clapping, that meant the world to me because it took me a long, long time to get over. I don't know that I ever got over it 100%.
Doug Dunbar, CBS News, Fort Worth, Dallas.
Wow, quite a story. We'll be right back. This is our Saturday feel-good moment. An orphaned and marooned orca calf has finally swum its way to freedom. The orca's mother died on a sandbar off Vancouver's west coast. The calf trapped itself in a shallow lagoon for more than a month. But with a boost of a high tide, she swam to open waters and, with luck, a reunion with her orca family. Also at sea, the Olympic torch sailed today from Greece to France. This 3-masted ship will bring the lantern carrying the torch across the Mediterranean. It's a 12-day sail to Marseille, and from there, the torch heads to Paris. A torch will light the Olympic flame, heralding the opening of the Summer Games on July 26th. And today's the third and final day of the NFL draft, teams remaking rosters and rebuilding Super Bowl dreams. Starting the season, another change. The league will give players the option to wear added protection during games, soft-shell helmet covers known as guardian caps. Some players wore them during training camp the last couple preseasons. The league reported that concussions dropped nearly 50%. Next on the CBS Weekend News, the Nerd Prom. We'll look at the history of the White House Correspondents' Dinner. The Washington Hilton tonight will host the so-called Nerd Prom, the annual White House Correspondents Association dinner. Over the decades, this Hilton has seen them come and go, from White House greats to wannabes.
It's Sam over the hill. Don Lemon would say that's a man in his prime.
President Biden returns tonight for a tradition since 1924. The president and the press yucking it up with one-liners and zingers. It's a gala, black tie mandatory, with comic timing and thick skin suggested.
Presidents kind of get to go into a more informal setting, let their hair down a bit, and indeed poke fun at themselves.
Over the last few months, I've lost 10 pounds. Where did they go?
Is there a political calculation and all that too?
There's always a political calculation. You know, everything that's done in Washington is political.
Hollywood A-listers now clamor to get an invite to the Hilton's ballroom. Some critics don't like the gala. They say it's proof of a cozy relationship between the White House and the media. You might also remember the Hilton as the stage for an assassination attempt. Outside the hotel in 1981, John Hinckley shot and wounded President Reagan.
At least 4 of the bullets found a target. One of them, the President of the United States.
Reagan, still recovering, called in to the dinner.
Well, I'm happy to be speaking to the White House Correspondents' Spring Prom. I'm sorry that I can't be there in person.
The hotel and the president survived and thrived after the assassination attempt.
Sometimes in politics, the laughs are intentional. And that's the news for this Saturday. Tomorrow on CBS Sunday Morning, Dan Rather looks back. And then it's Face the Nation. Margaret Brennan's guests include Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell and Pennsylvania Congresswoman Summer Lee. For now, I'm Mark Strassman in New York. Good night.
For more of this, we're joined by current George Washington student, Sabrina Soffer, and recent graduate of Wake Forest University, Yasmin LeMay. Thank you both for joining us. We wanted to bring you in because we want to hear your voices, what you're experiencing, what you're seeing out there in the world, and get your thoughts on it. So, Sabrina, I want to start with you because GW is really in this situation right now. They are facing the encampments and trying to decide what to do about it. So your experience as a Jewish student there on that campus, what is it like? What have you heard? What have you seen? And as well as your fellow Jewish students.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me and for allowing us to share our voices. And as a Jewish student today at George Washington University, I'm really appalled by what's going on, but I'm honestly not surprised. And Jewish students are not safe, and they haven't been, and this has been in the making as a result of a combination of radical faculty who have been hired by the university and allowed to teach with no diversity in that camp of faculty, in addition to a weak administration that refuses to enforce their policies. And today I understand that they're trying to remove the encampments, but there's other factors that are preventing that from happening. But at the same time, over the course of the 3 years that I've been at GW, the administration has failed to really take swift and serious action against these radical faculty members and the radical student groups who are being effectively created and emboldened by these faculty.
I want to bring in Yasmin in a moment, but I want to ask you a quick question about what some universities are doing. There's the University of Florida that has made some pretty clear guidelines for pro-Palestinian student demonstrations, even threatening suspension from campus for up to 3 years if action isn't taken. And on the other side, there's Brandeis University, prestigious university in Massachusetts, a long Jewish heritage there, that have actually extended their current transfer application deadline, sort of been reaching out to Jewish students all across the country because of the current climate on many campuses, as Brandeis puts it. Your thoughts on what some universities are doing compared to what you're seeing?
Yeah, so I think what Brandeis is doing is it's a great gesture, but I do think that there needs to be a crackdown on this chaos that's going on campus, because ultimately, by refusing to crack down, it's just allowing this sort of mob rule to take over, in addition to allowing the claim that this is freedom of expression, which is not, because freedom to protest, which I'm all for, is actually leading to the harassment of Jewish students. One of my friends at UCLA was actually pushed off of a ledge and could have cracked her skull open, and the fact that faculty members are allowed to participate, this isn't academic freedom, it's academic fraud, and I think that this whole orchestrated effort, there needs to be a serious crackdown on what's going on, whether it's with the encampments and within the university construct.
And I think you bring up a great point about responsibility. Yasmin, I want to bring you in. You have a unique personal story. You're Persian and Iranian. Both of your parents fled Iran during the 1979 revolution, but you are pro-Israel and anti-Iran at this point. And I want you, in your own words, to tell your story. Where do you stand today and your thoughts on what's unfolding?
You know, I just find it so ironic that the very students who are protesting on campuses in opposition of Israel are by default supporting Iran, who beat protesters to death. And most of the protesters in Iran are around the same age as these college students. And, you know, like you had mentioned, my parents fled Iran at the time of the revolution when the Shah was overthrown and the Islamic Republic took over. Being a part of a non-Muslim religious minority group, they were denied the right to receive a higher education. So, you know, I have trouble believing that the students who are protesting on the campuses know exactly what they are supporting when they oppose Israel. Opposing Israel means supporting Iran. Opposing Israel means putting the Holy Land at risk. And as an American Iranian, I support Israel because to me this is a war between good and evil. The government of Iran is called an axis of evil for a reason. They're the perfect example of, quite frankly, the devil. I mean, they're the epitome of human greed, corruption, In Iran, there's no such thing as freedom of religion. If you aren't Muslim, they'll kick you out of your home and steal the land right under you. They will martyr your relatives and not even let you mark their grave. They'll deprive you of the right to get a higher education while they award each other doctorates when they themselves haven't even completed the 6th grade.
Yasmin, I think you raise a great point about some of the voices we're hearing on these campuses and some of the comparisons you seem to be drawing. Take a listen to some of the things we're hearing on these campuses as part of these protests. Many people view these chants as being not just anti-Semitic, but calling for an end to the Israeli state. Your thoughts, Yasmin, as you hear these voices, knowing what your family has experienced?
It's just mind-blowing to see the degree of ignorance. I mean, I'm a part of a non-Muslim religious minority in Iran, and speaking from my perspective, but also the perspective of the fact that Israel is the holy land for major religions, Christianity, Judaism, Baha'i faith, and Islam. And the thing that is just mind-blowing is the fact that when you oppose Israel, you're putting all of these major religions and the Holy Land at risk. They're not, Hamas is funded by Iran. Iran is going to do the exact same thing, or the Islamic Republic will do the exact same thing to Iran, to Israel, as they did to Iran. A perfect example is the Persian Empire was one of the greatest empires in the world, and Cyrus the Great cylinder was the first declaration of rights. But we don't even trust that cylinder to be in Iran. We would rather have it in the hands of the British in the British Museum because we know that they're going to destroy it. This is exactly what the Islamic Republic will do to Israel as well.
Thank you so much to you both. We're hearing these loud chants, these loud voices, the drum beats, but it's important to hear all of the voices and to hear your comment, to hear your thoughts as we're watching all of this unfold on university campuses, not just across the East Coast, but in many other places across the country now at this point. Sabrina Safar, Yasmin Lameh, thank you both for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. On Capitol Hill, the House has approved a $95 billion foreign aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. The House also approved a bill that could lead to a ban on the social media app TikTok. Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson pushed the bills forward despite growing Republican calls for him to resign, in part over support for supporting $61 billion in aid to Ukraine. The Ukraine bill passed by a vote of 311 to 112. Every Democrat who voted supported the measure. The $26 billion Israel aid bill passed by a vote of 366 to 58. 37 Democrats and 21 Republicans opposed the bill. Opponents of the bill included Texas Democratic Congressmember Joaquin Castro.
All of us have seen the tragedy of Gaza. We have seen how Prime Minister Netanyahu's government has used American weapons to kill indiscriminately, to force famine. Over 25,000 women and children dead. Tens of thousands of missiles and bombs levied on innocent civilians. We cannot escape what we see before us every day. Are we going to participate in that carnage or not? I choose not to.
In Gaza, Palestinian civil defense workers have found at least 210 bodies buried in a mass grave in the courtyard of the Nasser Medical Complex in the southern Gaza city of Khan Yunis. The discovery comes
Thank you for watching and privilege of your time. This is Amir Shakil 5858. I am Amir Goodman. Have a good life.